Most people fall into a trap that silently destroys their potential, the trap of problems. They spend their days magnifying everything that is wrong, replaying mistakes in their minds, and reminding themselves of difficulties as if repeating them will somehow make them disappear. But problems do not dissolve under the weight of constant attention. Instead, they grow larger, heavier, and more overwhelming the more energy you feed them. Like fire fueled by oxygen, a problem fed by thought expands until it consumes your peace, your confidence, and your strength. People complain about their situation and believe they are releasing the burden, but in truth, every complaint adds another layer to the wall that holds them back. The more you think about what is wrong, the more powerless you feel to change it. The trap is subtle because it feels natural. When something goes wrong, the mind instinctively circles it, replaying the details, analyzing what happened, and rehearsing worst-case scenarios. But this cycle is not problem-solving, it is problem-feeding, and the more you feed the problem, the more it feeds on you. Your creativity begins to shrink, your courage fades, and your energy drains away. What was once a small obstacle now looks like an unmovable mountain. You begin to convince yourself that nothing can be done, when in reality, the only thing that has changed is your perspective. The problem is not stronger, your focus has simply made it appear that way. Every time you give your energy to what is wrong, you strip yourself of the strength to see what could be right. You trade clarity for confusion. You give away power that belongs to you. This is why so many people live in cycles of frustration. They believe their circumstances trap them, but it is their own attention that keeps them locked in place. Problems become chains when you carry them in your thoughts day after day, and those chains can feel impossible to break because the more you stare at them, the heavier they seem. But here is the truth: no problem has power on its own. It is neutral, lifeless, and powerless until you give it energy. The trap is not in the problem itself, but in the way you relate to it. If you constantly feed it your focus, you magnify its strength. If you starve it by refusing to dwell on it, the problem begins to shrink. You cannot change what has already happened, but you can change what you choose to focus on right now. And this choice determines whether you stay stuck in weakness or rise into strength. When you fall into the trap of problems, your vision narrows. You stop seeing opportunities because all your energy is locked onto the obstacle in front of you. Your imagination closes, your confidence evaporates, you no longer believe in possibility because your mind is so consumed by difficulty. And as your belief weakens, so does your will to act. You wait for things to improve on their own, not realizing that waiting only strengthens the trap. Problems are not solved by staring at them. They are solved by shifting your focus, by looking at them through the lens of answers instead of despair. You must understand this deeply. Energy flows where attention goes. If your attention is chained to problems, your energy will be trapped as well. If your attention is fixed on solutions, your energy will rise and flow into action. The trap is broken the moment you stop feeding what is wrong and begin to build what is right. Every great breakthrough in history was born from a shift of focus, from dwelling on obstacles to searching for answers. The problem never disappeared. The person simply stopped feeding it and started feeding the solution. The trap of problems will always be waiting, ready to pull you back into its cycle of worry and repetition. But you hold the key. You can choose to magnify the difficulty, or you can choose to magnify your power. The choice is yours, and it begins in the silence of your own mind. Do not fall for the illusion that problems grow stronger on their own. They grow only when you feed them, and they shrink the moment you turn your focus toward solutions, toward strength, toward action. The trap is real, but so is your ability to rise above it. Whatever the mind consistently focuses on will expand and dominate your life. This is one of the most powerful truths about human existence, yet most people are blind to it. They allow their attention to wander to fear, doubt, and obstacles, and then wonder why their lives are filled with frustration and defeat. If you dwell on fear, it multiplies. If you dwell on lack, scarcity becomes your reality. If you dwell on pain, it intensifies until it feels unbearable. But when you direct that same energy toward solutions, toward possibility, toward what can be built instead of what is broken, you begin to open doors you never knew existed. The direction of your attention decides whether you remain a prisoner to your circumstances or rise into victory. Attention is not just a passive experience. It is a force that shapes your destiny. Every thought you repeat sends signals to your subconscious mind, programming it to either paralyze you or empower you. If your attention constantly lingers on the worst outcomes, your subconscious accepts it as truth and begins to align your emotions and behaviors with failure. On the other hand, when you fix your attention on solutions, your subconscious becomes your greatest ally. It begins to search for answers, connect ideas, and push you toward opportunities that you never noticed before. What you focus on is not just something you think about. It becomes the environment your entire life is built upon. This is why two people can face the same situation and produce completely different results. One person sees only obstacles, magnifies the struggle, and sinks deeper into despair. The other person acknowledges the challenge but refuses to let their attention linger on it. They look for cracks in the wall, doors that can be unlocked, steps that can be taken. They see possibility where others see only barriers. The difference between these two people is not the problem itself. It is the placement of their attention. And that placement determines whether they stay stuck or move forward. You must learn to guard your attention as fiercely as you would guard your most valuable possession, because it is the most valuable possession you have. Your future depends on where your focus is placed. The mind cannot grow stronger when it is chained to negativity. The spirit cannot expand when it is weighed down by constant complaints. But when you discipline your attention and direct it toward constructive answers, you ignite the power within you. You stop waiting for circumstances to change because you realize that by shifting your focus, you have already changed. The truth is simple yet profound. What you feed will grow, and what you starve will die. If you feed fear, fear will flourish. If you feed solutions, solutions will multiply. Your attention is the water that determines what will live in the garden of your life. Will you water weeds or will you water seeds of greatness? The choice is always yours. And once you master this choice, once you control your attention, you control your destiny. A problem in itself carries no emotion, no weight, no meaning. It is not your enemy, nor is it a punishment. A problem is nothing more than a question that demands an answer, a puzzle waiting for a solution. It becomes heavy or unbearable only because of the meaning you attach to it. One person looks at a problem and calls it failure. Another looks at the same problem and calls it opportunity. The problem has not changed, but the interpretation has. This is why problems are neutral. They do not come with labels attached. You are the one who writes the label. If you call it defeat, it will feel like defeat. If you call it growth, it will feel like growth. The power lies not in the problem, but in the perspective you choose to carry. Many people poison themselves by adding unnecessary weight to their problems. They treat every difficulty as a personal attack, a sign that life is unfair, or a reason to stop trying. They allow the emotion of despair to wrap around them until the smallest obstacle feels like an unmovable wall. But another person in the same position does not waste energy asking why me. Instead, they ask, what is this here to teach me? That shift in perspective changes everything. The challenge remains, but it no longer feels like a dead end. It becomes a teacher, a training ground, a tool to sharpen strength. What was once seen as punishment is now seen as preparation. If you can strip away the labels you attach to problems, you will see them for what they truly are, neutral events that simply demand a response. They are not curses sent to destroy you. They are not signals that you are doomed. They are questions. And like all questions, they have answers. The problem is not as powerful as your interpretation makes it appear. It cannot destroy you unless you decide to give it the meaning of destruction. You hold the authority to transform every problem into fuel for growth, but you must first stop giving it the power of negativity. The moment you shift your mind and stop labeling problems as enemies, you gain clarity. You begin to see options that were hidden when you were consumed with fear. Solutions reveal themselves not because the problem changed, but because you changed the way you viewed it. The weight falls off because you stopped carrying it as a punishment. You begin to realize that life has never been against you. Life is simply placing questions in your path to test how deeply you are willing to grow. Every obstacle that stands in front of you is neutral until you decide what it means. And once you understand that truth, you free yourself from unnecessary suffering. You no longer collapse under challenges because you see them as stepping stones. You no longer waste energy fighting the problem itself, because you understand it has no power on its own. The power has always been in your perception, and when you master perception, you master life. Every time you turn your focus away from the weight of the problem and toward the possibility of a solution, you build strength within yourself. Solutions are not just answers to challenges. They are the bricks that construct your confidence, your character, and your future. Each time you search for a way forward instead of replaying the struggle, you grow more powerful. You teach your mind to move instead of freeze, to act instead of complain, to build instead of break. This act of choosing solutions over problems is what separates those who remain stuck from those who rise above. When you focus on solutions, something remarkable happens inside your mind. You begin to notice opportunities that were invisible before. Your creativity expands because your energy is no longer trapped in fear. Your courage grows because you start to prove to yourself that progress is possible. Even the smallest step toward a solution generates momentum, and momentum is what transforms a weak, uncertain mind into a strong, unstoppable one. The person who looks for solutions consistently becomes a magnet for ideas, a builder of progress, and a creator of results. The truth is that problems do not make you weak, dwelling on them does, but solutions create an entirely different energy. They give you control in moments when everything feels uncertain. They remind you that you are not helpless, that you still hold the power to change, that you can influence your circumstances with focused thought and deliberate action. With every solution you create, you take back the power that the problem once seemed to steal. You remind yourself that you are not a victim of life, you are a creator within it. Solutions also build resilience. When you teach yourself to search for answers in every difficulty, you condition your mind to respond with strength instead of panic. This is how true confidence is formed, not by avoiding challenges, but by facing them and proving to yourself that you can endure and rise. The next time a problem comes, you no longer tremble. Instead, you stand taller because you know you have already trained yourself to find the way forward. Each solution you create becomes a victory stored in your memory, a reminder that you are capable of far more than you once believed. The more you build solutions, the less intimidating problems become. What once looked like a mountain now looks like a small hill. What once felt like an impossible storm now feels like passing rain. Problems shrink before solutions because solutions awaken your inner power. They transform weakness into mastery. And when you live with the habit of solutions, you no longer fear the arrival of challenges. You welcome them because you know each one will make you stronger. The words you whisper to yourself in silence are shaping the direction of your entire life. Most people do not fail because of the size of their problems. They fail because of the voice inside their own mind. When the inner dialogue is filled with complaints, excuses, and blame, every obstacle feels heavier. But when the inner dialogue is shifted toward solutions, strength begins to rise. The questions you ask yourself determine whether you stay trapped or break free. If you keep asking, "Why is this happening to me? Why is life unfair?" you will find no progress. But if you ask, "What can I do right now? What step can I take with what I have? How can I move forward?" your mind begins to unlock doors that were invisible before. Your inner dialogue is the compass of your destiny. If the compass is pointed toward defeat, you will walk toward defeat. If it is pointed toward possibility, you will walk toward victory. The mind is obedient. It will always search for evidence to support the dominant question you give it. If you constantly ask disempowering questions, your mind will serve you disempowering answers. It will show you reasons why you cannot, why it is impossible, why you should give up. But the moment you shift your inner dialogue toward empowerment, everything changes. Suddenly, your mind becomes an ally. It begins searching for hidden strength, unnoticed resources, overlooked opportunities. The quality of your questions creates the quality of your life. This is why the shift of inner dialogue is not optional, it is essential. You cannot afford to fill your mind with thoughts that drain you, because those thoughts will steal your ability to act. Every great achievement begins not with perfect conditions, but with a single voice inside saying, "There must be a way, and I will find it." That inner conviction creates energy where there was none. It pulls courage from the depths of your spirit. It gives you enough strength to take the first step. And once the first step is taken, momentum builds. But none of it begins until you take control of the voice that speaks within. Training your inner dialogue requires awareness and discipline. You must catch yourself in the moment when your mind starts feeding you excuses. You must interrupt the cycle when you hear yourself repeating, "I can't, I don't have enough, I'm not ready." Replace it immediately with empowering words, "I can learn, I can adapt, I can create, I can rise." At first, it feels unnatural because you have rehearsed weakness for so long. But with repetition, this new language of strength becomes your natural state. Over time, your inner dialogue becomes a source of power instead of a source of fear. The truth is simple. You cannot control everything that happens around you, but you can control the voice within you. That voice will either destroy you or build you. Shift it toward solutions, and it will lead you to growth, progress, and power. Every time you choose empowering questions over destructive ones, you train your mind to see light in the middle of darkness. And the person who sees light when others see only darkness is the person who will always rise. The moment you shift your focus from dwelling on problems to searching for solutions, something powerful begins to awaken inside of you. Your mind, which once felt heavy and paralyzed, suddenly starts to come alive with energy. Ideas you never noticed before begin to surface. Paths that once seemed closed start to open. This is the awakening of the creative mind. Creativity is not reserved for artists or inventors. It is a natural force within every human being, waiting to be unlocked. But it remains locked when you spend your days rehearsing fears and magnifying difficulties. The instant you choose to channel your attention toward building answers, the creative mind rises to meet the challenge. Your imagination is a tool far greater than most people realize. It is not just a place for daydreams. It is the workshop where solutions are born. When your energy is trapped in fear, imagination works against you, producing visions of failure and defeat. But when your energy is directed towards solutions, imagination becomes your ally. It begins to create images of possibility, to sketch out new paths, to combine old ideas into fresh strategies. The creative mind thrives when you stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What can I create with this?" That single shift transforms imagination from a weapon of destruction into a force of progress. Creativity awakens not in moments of comfort, but in moments of pressure. History shows that many of the greatest breakthroughs were born in the middle of difficulty, when the mind was forced to rise higher than the problem itself. The difference between those who crumble under pressure and those who create under pressure is focus. The ones who crumble see only the weight of the obstacle. The ones who create choose to believe there must be an answer, and that belief ignites their creative power. They refuse to stop searching until they find a way forward. This awakening of the creative mind also changes the way you see yourself. You begin to realize that you are not just someone who reacts to life. You are someone who can design life. You stop waiting for conditions to become perfect and start creating from where you are. Every time you find a creative answer, you reinforce the truth that you are capable, resourceful, and resilient. This builds a new level of self-trust, and that trust fuels even greater creativity. The more you create, the more you believe. The more you believe, the more you create. The human mind is limitless when it is awakened, but it remains asleep as long as it is chained to negativity. Your greatest ideas, your most powerful strategies, your hidden strengths will never reveal themselves while you are staring at the problem. They reveal themselves the moment you focus on the solution. This is the doorway to transformation. The creative mind does not wait for perfect conditions, it creates them. And when you awaken that power within yourself, there is no problem you cannot outgrow. Every obstacle appears larger than life when your eyes are fixed solely upon it. The more you stare at what is wrong, the more distorted it becomes in your mind. A small challenge begins to feel like an impossible barrier. A temporary delay looks like a permanent defeat. This is the trick problems play. They grow in size and weight only because of the energy you feed them. But the instant you shift your focus to solutions, the illusion begins to crumble. What once seemed overwhelming now starts to shrink. The obstacle does not physically change, it is your perspective that transforms it. And with that shift of perspective, the mountain before you begins to look more like a hill that can be climbed. When you commit yourself to searching for solutions, your energy rises. Instead of draining yourself by replaying what went wrong, you fuel yourself by imagining what could go right. That energy itself weakens the power of the problem. You are no longer paralyzed by it, because your mind is already moving forward. Action begins to replace hesitation. Possibility begins to replace despair. Every step you take towards solving the challenge chips away at the size of the problem until it no longer intimidates you. The problem shrinks because your courage grows. Problems thrive on attention. They expand when you give them your fear, your complaints, and your doubts. But they wither when you shift your attention away from them and pour it into solutions. This is why the same challenge that breaks one person becomes a stepping stone for another. It is not the size of the problem that matters, it is the size of the solution. Focused mindset. The one who feeds solutions becomes stronger than any difficulty. The one who feeds problems becomes weaker than even the smallest obstacle. As you discipline yourself to focus on solutions, you begin to notice that problems lose their grip on your emotions. They no longer control your mood, your thoughts, or your energy. Instead of waking up each day with the weight of worry on your shoulders, you wake up with the strength of progress in your heart. The problem may still be present, but it no longer defines you. It has been reduced to what it truly is: a temporary challenge, not a permanent sentence. The fear fades because you are no longer staring at the darkness. You are walking toward the light of answers. This truth is simple. Problems appear powerful only when you give them your full attention. The moment you take back that attention and invest it in solutions, the balance of power shifts. You stop being a victim of circumstance and start becoming a creator of outcomes. And in that shift, you discover that the problem was never as large as it seemed. It only grew because you fed it. The moment you stopped feeding it, it began to shrink before your eyes. The human mind is powerful, but it is also limited in one crucial way. It cannot hold two dominant thoughts at the same time. This is the law of mental substitution. If your mind is filled with fear, there is no room for courage. If your mind is dominated by doubt, belief cannot take root. If your thoughts are chained to the problem, the solution cannot find space to appear. The only way to weaken a destructive thought is not to fight it directly, but to replace it with a constructive one. Darkness does not leave because you wrestle with it. It leaves because you turn on the light. In the same way, problems lose their grip when you choose to substitute them with solution-focused thoughts. Many people try to escape their negative thoughts by force. They tell themselves, "I will stop worrying. I will stop being afraid. I will stop doubting." But the more they resist, the stronger those thoughts become. You cannot erase darkness by shouting at it. You cannot banish fear by arguing with it. The only way to dissolve destructive thoughts is to fill the mind with better ones. When you deliberately choose empowering thoughts, the old ones lose power simply because they no longer have space to live. You cannot give your full attention to both the problem and the solution. One will always win, and you are the one who decides which it will be. This law of substitution is the reason why people who constantly feed themselves with thoughts of growth, gratitude, and determination rise faster than those who repeat worry, anger, and complaints. Their minds are not cluttered with both. They have chosen a dominant focus, and that focus shapes their reality. The mind obeys what you feed it. If you feed it weakness, it will manifest weakness. If you feed it strength, it will manifest strength. The law does not fail, it only reflects what you choose. To master this law, you must become intentional with your thoughts. The next time fear rises, do not try to fight it. Replace it with courage. The next time doubt speaks, do not argue with it. Replace it with belief. The next time your mind begins to replay the problem, interrupt it with a clear question: what solution can I create right now? Every substitution weakens the power of negativity and strengthens the power of progress. Over time, this practice conditions your mind to lean naturally towards solutions. It becomes your instinct, your habit, your way of life. The truth is that problems and solutions cannot share the same throne in your mind. One will rule and the other will bow. If you allow the problem to dominate, the solution will stay hidden. But if you give the throne to the solution, the problem loses its authority. This law is not just theory. It is a principle that can transform every area of your life if you live by it. Master the art of substitution, and you will never again be enslaved by negative thoughts. You will know exactly how to rise above them, not by fighting them, but by replacing them with something greater. The moment you take responsibility for your life, you unlock a power that most people will never experience. Responsibility is not a burden, it is freedom. It is the key that shifts the power from the outside world back into your hands. When you blame others, when you point fingers at circumstances, when you make excuses for why things are not working, you surrender your strength. You hand over control of your destiny to forces outside of you. But when you take responsibility, you reclaim that control. You say to yourself, no matter what has happened, no matter what stands before me, I hold the power to choose my response. I hold the power to shape my outcome. That decision transforms you from a victim into a creator. Blame is easy, but it is also dangerous. It may give temporary comfort, because it allows you to avoid looking inward, but it also traps you in weakness. Every time you blame someone else, you are saying that your life is in their hands, not yours. You are declaring that they hold the key to your progress. And as long as you believe that, you will remain powerless. Responsibility, on the other hand, feels heavy at first because it demands honesty. It forces you to admit that your choices, your focus, and your actions have created your current reality. But within that honesty lies enormous strength, because if you created your current reality, you can also create a new one. Taking responsibility does not mean blaming yourself for everything that has ever gone wrong. It means recognizing that, regardless of what happens, you control your response. You cannot change the weather, but you can prepare for the storm. You cannot control the economy, but you can control your mindset, your skills, and your discipline. You cannot dictate what others will do, but you can decide how you will act. This is the essence of responsibility, choosing power over helplessness, action over excuses, creation over complaint. Responsibility also breeds confidence. The moment you stop waiting for someone else to fix things for you, you begin to trust yourself. You realize that you are capable of handling far more than you imagined. Each decision you make reinforces the truth that you are not at the mercy of life. You are the architect of it. This trust in yourself fuels momentum. You stop hesitating because you no longer feel that your fate is in the hands of others. You act with conviction because you know that no matter what happens, you will take responsibility for the outcome and adjust until you succeed. The truth is that responsibility and power are inseparable. You cannot have one without the other. The more responsibility you accept, the more powerful you become. The less responsibility you accept, the weaker you remain. Life will test you, it will challenge you, it will hand you problems, but it will also hand you the choice. Will you blame and stay weak, or will you take responsibility and rise? The moment you choose responsibility, you choose strength, and from that moment on, nothing outside of you can control your destiny. You are the one who holds the key. Success is not the result of a single decision made in a moment of clarity. It is the outcome of consistent habits formed over time. Among the most powerful habits you can develop is the habit of focusing on solutions instead of problems. This is not something that happens overnight. The mind is naturally drawn to obstacles, complaints, and difficulties, and it will resist the discipline required to focus on answers. But the more you train yourself to do it, the more automatic it becomes. Every day you make the conscious choice to search for answers instead of replaying setbacks. You reinforce a mental muscle that grows stronger with use. Habits are the architecture of your life. They determine how you react to challenges, how you process difficulties, and how quickly you rise after setbacks. If your habit is to complain, your days will be filled with negativity, frustration, and stagnation. If your habit is to seek solutions, every challenge becomes an opportunity for growth. You do not have to wait for inspiration or perfect conditions. Habits are built in the ordinary moments, in the small choices repeated day after day. Each time you choose to find a solution, you are teaching your mind that problems are not permanent walls, but temporary questions that can be answered. Training the habit of solutions also trains your resilience. Life will inevitably present obstacles. No one escapes difficulties, disappointments, or unexpected failures. But a person who has made seeking solutions a habit approaches these moments with a calm, creative, and disciplined mindset. They no longer panic when challenges arise, because their mind has been conditioned to act, to build, and to find ways forward. This habit removes hesitation, doubt, and fear from the equation. The solution focused mind is a trained mind. It instinctively searches for paths, creates alternatives, and refuses to be defeated by temporary circumstances. The habit of solutions transforms not only how you approach external problems, but also how you view yourself. You begin to see yourself as capable, resourceful, and unstoppable. Confidence grows because you have proven repeatedly that you can overcome what life places in front of you. The mind starts to anticipate success because it has been trained to find a way forward in every situation. Momentum builds naturally because every small success reinforces the pattern of solution-oriented thinking. Soon, focusing on answers becomes instinctive. It becomes your default mode of operation, not just a conscious effort. The key is consistency. It is not enough to seek solutions once in a while or only when the stakes are high. The habit must be formed through daily repetition, through discipline, and through a refusal to feed problems unnecessarily. Each time you do this, you are training your mind to rise above challenges, to thrive under pressure, and to operate from a place of power. This habit is the foundation of progress, the engine of resilience, and the secret to transforming every obstacle into opportunity. When you train the habit of solutions, you create a life where problems no longer dominate, but where your ability to rise above them becomes unstoppable. Progress creates energy unlike anything else in life. Every small step you take toward a solution, no matter how minor it seems, generates momentum that propels you forward. This is the secret force that separates those who remain stuck from those who rise steadily toward success. When you focus on solutions and act, You feel alive in a way that fear, doubt, and stagnation can never provide. Action transforms hesitation into movement, confusion into clarity, and despair into hope. Even the smallest accomplishment ignites a spark, and that spark fuels the next action, creating a chain reaction of growth and energy that builds unstoppable momentum. Energy is not just physical, it is mental, emotional, and spiritual. When you move towards solutions, your mind sharpens. Your confidence grows, your emotions stabilize. The progress you make reinforces your belief in your own ability to overcome challenges. You begin to realize that nothing outside of you controls your energy. Your energy is created by your choices, your focus, and your actions. Every step forward strengthens your ability to take the next step, and every victory, no matter how small, reinforces the habit of solution, focused thinking. Momentum becomes a force that carries you past obstacles that once seemed insurmountable. The energy of progress also changes the way you perceive problems. Challenges no longer feel threatening, they feel like invitations. When you consistently act to solve difficulties, the weight of the problem diminishes because your energy is now directed at creation, not despair. The act of moving forward produces its own power. It builds courage, sharpens resilience, and awakens your potential. The person who is in motion is rarely defeated. Even when setbacks occur, the energy of progress keeps them moving, learning, and adapting. Momentum becomes more than a word. It becomes a lifestyle, a rhythm of daily growth and unstoppable force. Progress fuels confidence in ways that motivation alone cannot. Motivation is fleeting. Progress is permanent. Every completed action reinforces your sense of capability. You no longer wait for inspiration because you realize that action itself produces energy, clarity, and courage. The mind begins to expect results because it has trained itself to act consistently. And as energy accumulates, you begin to attract opportunities, ideas, and people who match your momentum. This is the unseen law of progress. Movement generates energy, energy attracts results, and results fuel further movement. The truth is that stagnation is energy drained. Complaining, worrying, and dwelling on problems consumes your power without producing anything in return. But action, no matter how small, creates energy that multiplies over time. It transforms weakness into strength, hesitation into courage, and fear into confidence. The energy of progress is a force that cannot be stopped once it has been awakened. The more you focus on solutions and act, the stronger it grows, until you are no longer at the mercy of problems. You are carried forward by the unstoppable power of your own forward motion. Greatness is not measured by the number of problems you face, but by how effectively you rise above them. Life is filled with difficulties, challenges, and setbacks, and no one is exempt. The difference between those who achieve success and those who remain trapped in mediocrity is not luck or circumstance, it is the ability to look beyond the problem and focus on solutions. Rising above problems requires a mindset that refuses to be consumed by obstacles, a spirit that chooses action over despair, and a determination to keep moving even when the path is unclear. Those who rise above problems understand that the challenge is temporary, but the strength gained from overcoming it lasts a lifetime. When you rise above a problem, you no longer allow it to define you. You refuse to let the weight of difficulty dictate your emotions, your decisions, or your future. Instead, you see the problem as a test of your resolve, a measure of your ability to persevere, and an opportunity to grow stronger. Every challenge you overcome reinforces the truth that you are capable of more than you imagined. You begin to realize that your power is not dependent on circumstances, it is dependent on your response. And it is in this response that true freedom and strength are found. Rising above problems is not about avoiding them or pretending they do not exist. It is about seeing them clearly, assessing them honestly, and then taking deliberate steps to move beyond them. It requires courage, discipline, and focus. It requires the ability to silence the inner voice of doubt and replace it with a voice of action. The person who rises above problems acts despite fear, works despite uncertainty, and perseveres despite setbacks. They understand that problems are not permanent walls but temporary hurdles, and every hurdle overcome builds momentum, confidence, and resilience. The act of rising above challenges also shapes your character. Strength, patience, and perseverance are forged in the fire of adversity. The more you practice rising above problems, the more naturally you respond with composure, clarity, and determination in future difficulties. Challenges no longer intimidate you, they teach you. They become the training ground for your mind, body, and spirit. You stop fearing life's obstacles and start embracing them as necessary steps toward your growth and transformation. Ultimately, those who rise above problems gain mastery over themselves. They understand that life will always present difficulties, but nothing outside of them has the power to control their destiny. Problems may test them, but solutions define them. Each time they overcome a challenge, they move closer to the person they are capable of becoming. And in this ability to rise above, they discover freedom, power, and the unshakable confidence that no problem, no matter how large, can hold them down unless they allow it. Stop magnifying what holds you back. Stop feeding the darkness and the doubts that linger in your mind. Problems will always exist. They are part of life, but they only have the power you give them. Every moment spent dwelling on obstacles, replaying failures, or rehearsing fear is a moment stolen from your potential. Today, you must decide to redirect your energy toward solutions, toward action, toward what can be built instead of what has fallen apart. The choice is simple, but it is not easy. It requires courage, discipline, and a refusal to allow circumstances to dictate your life. The moment you make this choice, everything changes. To focus on solutions is to claim control over your destiny. It is the act of taking responsibility for your life, for your mind, and for your actions. You no longer wait for conditions to be perfect. You no longer hope for someone else to fix what you can fix yourself. You move forward deliberately, consistently, and relentlessly. Solutions awaken energy, creativity, and momentum. They build strength and confidence. They transform obstacles into stepping stones and setbacks into lessons. The person who focuses on solutions is unstoppable, because their power comes from within and is not dependent on what is happening outside. This is the moment to stop giving problems more power than they deserve. The moment to stop letting fear, doubt, and indecision control your thoughts. Every problem contains within it the seed of its own solution, but that seed will not grow unless you water it with focus, action, and belief. Over 1 billion souls, religions that date back thousands of years, and your actions are the sunlight. Feed the solution, all woven together within a single. Feed the problem and it will grow until it threatens to consume you. The difference is always your choice, always your responsibility, always your focus. Rise now and commit to building answers instead of rehearsing difficulties. Train yourself daily to ask, what can I do right now? How can I move forward? What is within my control? These questions are the tools of transformation. They create clarity, ignite courage, and produce action. And once action begins, momentum follows. Every small step forward reduces the size of the problem and multiplies the power within you. This is not theory, it is a law of life. Those who understand it rise, those who ignore it remain trapped. Your problems may challenge you, but solutions will crown you. You have the power to focus, to act, and to create a life that is not dictated by obstacles but defined by your ability to overcome them. Today is the day to stop feeding problems and start feeding solutions. Today is the day to claim your strength, awaken your creativity, and step into the momentum of progress. Focus on solutions, and you will discover that no obstacle is too great, no setback too strong, and no circumstance too powerful to stop the force of a determined mind. The choice is yours. Rise, act, and create.